Hello friends, welcome you all. Today we will study the measurement of returns, measurement of mutual fund returns, part second. In the part first, we were discussing about the different types of measurement of the mutual fund returns. In that, we were discussing about the simple returns, then annualized return, and compounded return. But in the compounded return, we do not capture the dividend paid by the schemes, and we have not included the dividend paid on the mutual fund units. So the effect of dividend effect of dividends paid by the scheme is not captured in the above three types of return, that is simple return, annualized return, and compounded return. So that's why we are going to discuss the fourth measurement, types of measurement which capture the effect of dividend paid by the schemes. So let us discuss what is written, just revive it, and then we are going to discuss the compounded annual growth rate, that is CAGR. So what is return? The returns from an investment is calculated by comprising the cost paid to acquire the asset, that is outflow, or the starting value of the investment, to what is earned from it, that is inflow, and computing the rate of return. So it is just the relationship between the outflow and inflow, the initial amount, and whatever the return earned on the starting value of the investment. The inflow can be from periodic payouts such as interest from fixed income securities and dividend from equity investment, and gain or losses from a change in the value of investment. So the calculation of return for a period will take both the income earned and gain loss into consideration. So even if the gain loss have not been realized, but we have to calculate uh, in the, or we have to take into consideration. So this was the what is the return. Let us discuss the compounded annual growth rate. That is, we here going to capture the dividend paid on the unit, or what is the investors investment. In as we have discussed, in last three measurements of return have not captured the dividend paid by the scheme, or the effect on the return of the dividend paid on the scheme. So the CAGR, that is compounded annual growth rate, is based on the assumption that the dividend would be reinvested in the same scheme at the ex dividend net asset value. So here the assumptions you should keep in mind that the dividend would be reinvested, not withdrawn. So the earlier three methods which have not captured the dividend reinvested effect on the return. So just we are going to discuss with the example. The following example will clarify the calculation. Suppose you have invested 10,000 rupees in a scheme. The unit at rupees 10 per unit on June 30, 2016. Consider on January 1st, 2017, the scheme paid out a dividend of rupees 1 per unit. So the ex dividend net asset value was rupees 12.50 on January 1st, 2018. The scheme paid out another dividend of rupees 1 per unit. The ex dividend net asset value was rupees 15. So let us calculate the compounded annual growth rate, CAGR, which we know capture the impact of both dividend payment and compounding. Compounding means the earlier return reinvested and the return on the reinvestment amount also, that is called compounding. So compounding we have discussed in the last lecture. You can refer that video also. We know that the initial value of investment is that is IV. We calculate, we required the IV, initial value of investment, in the formula is rupees 10,000. If rupees 10,000 was invested at rupees 10 per unit, then you would have 1,000 unit. That is 10,000 rupees your initial amount divided by 1 unit for 10 rupees, that is divided by 10. So you will get the 1,000 units. Now the first dividend of rupees 1 per unit on 10,000 1,000 unit would amount 1,000 rupees. If this amount were reinvested, again invested in the same scheme at the X dividend net asset value, then you would have 80 additional units, because now the units value is 12.5 rupees. That is, it is increased, net asset value increase. So 1,000 the dividend you got divided by 12.50. So thus your unit holding would have gone up from 1,000 to 1,080 units. The second dividend of rupees 1 per unit on the revised unit holding of 1,080 units would amount rupees 1,080 rupees. Now the extra 80 unit will get extra 80 rupees a dividend, and 1,000 on the 10,000 rupees which were bought earlier. If this amount were reinvested in the same scheme at the X dividend net asset value, then you would have 72 additional units, because now the net asset value increased from 10 to 15 rupees. So 1,080 rupees is your dividend amount divided by 15 rupees per unit, that is you will get 72 additional units. Thus your unit holding would have gone up from 1,080 to 1,152 units at rupees 15 per units. So this would be valued at rupees 17,280. Therefore the later value of unit, that is LV, is rupees 17,280. So this is the later value we will required in the formula, initial value and later value. So keep in mind that initial value is 10,000 and later value is 17,280. The impact of dividend has been captured in the form of increase in the number of units. So the impact of dividend here captured, because your unit increased from the 1,000 units to 1,152 units. You now need the time period in years to calculate the compounded returns. The period of June 30, 2016 to January 1, 2018 has 550 days. So dividing by 365, it translates to 1.51 years. Thus the investment period in years, that is we consider N in the formula, is 1.51 years. So this is the formula. Now put our values in this formula. LV divided by IV, that is LV means the letter value divided by initial value upon 1 upon n. N is the number of years, or N is the period in years, minus whole things minus 1. So here 10,000 grew to rupees 17,280 in 1.51 years. So letter value is 17,280. Initial value is 10,000 and n is equal to 1.51 years. So we have put all the values in the formula, that is CAGR formula. So LV is, that is letter value is 17,280 divided by initial value, that is 10,000, divided by 1 upon 1.51. 1.51 is the n, that is number of years, minus 1. The answer can be calculated using MS Excel, Microsoft Excel also, by putting down the following formula in a cell. So if you put this formula into the Microsoft Excel, then you will get the answer 0.4365, but you have to multiply it by 100 to get the answer in the percentage. So if you multiply 0.4365 into 100, then you will get 4365%. Thus the investment yielded 4.365% CAGR between June 30, 2016 and June to January 1st, 2018. The first dividend of rupees 1 per unit on 1000 units would amount rupees 1000. If this amount were reinvested in the same scheme at the ex-dividend net asset value, then you would have 80 additional units. That is 1000 divided by 12.5. Thus your unit holding would have gone up from 1000 to 1080 units. The second dividend, rupees 1 per unit on the revised unit holding of 1080 units, would amount to rupees 1080. If this amount were reinvested in the same scheme at the ex-dividend net asset value, then you would have 72 additional units. That is 1080 divided by 15. 15 because the net asset value of that is unit value of that particular scheme gone up from 10 to 15. Thus your unit holding would have gone up from 1080 to 1152 units at rupees 15 per unit. So this would be valued at rupees 17,280. Therefore the later value of unit LV is rupees 17,280. So the impact of dividend has been captured in the form of increase in the number of units. You now need the time period in years to compute the compounded return. The period from 30 to 2062 January 1st 2080 has 550 days. So dividing by 365, it translates to 1.51 years. Thus the investment period in year n is 1.51 years. So this was the compounded return, that is compounded annual growth rate. We called it CAGR. Now pros and cons of evaluating funds only on the basis of the return performance. So only on the basis of returns performance, should we evaluate the scheme or not? What are the pros and cons about that? We are going to discuss. The primary factor that investor use for selecting a mutual fund for investment is the return that it has generated. To make the selection more robust or more accurate, it is important to consider the consistency of the return performance and the performance relative to the benchmark of the scheme and its peer group funds. So to make the more accurate selection of the schemes, it is important to think about the or review to take the review of the consistency of the return performance, not a performance at one times, but the consistency of the returns performance. So it is important for an actively managed fund to perform well in the rising market and fall less than the benchmark set by the scheme in a declining market. So for the actively managed fund, the scheme should rise in the rising market, and it should less decline in the falling market. However, the return number alone is not adequate to make a decision to invest in a scheme or exit from a scheme. So return number is alone is not adequate to select your scheme. You have to see the consistency and how it is performing in the rising and declining market. The suitability of the scheme to an investor's need must also consider the risk associated with the scheme. So the risk associated with the schemes also you should take into account. This includes evaluating factors like the volatility in the returns over time. The extent of volatility indicates the riskiness of the schemes. So these two things, risk associated and the volatility in the returns over times, you should take into account to evaluate the scheme or return performance of the mutual fund. It is also important to explore the factors that contribute to the return first. The which are the factors which contributing to the return we should take into account. First, the asset allocation of the scheme should be in line with the investor's need for growth and income or liquidity. Means the asset allocation of the scheme should be in the line with the objective of the objective and the need of the investor, not according to the fund manager. For example, an investor seeking a steady income may choose to invest in a monthly income plan, that is MIP. However, if the scheme has a higher allocation to equity than what is the investor is comfortable with, then the risk in the scheme and consequently the selection of the scheme may be inappropriate for the investor. Suppose investor do not want more than his asset, more than 50% his asset in the equity, and scheme is investing more than 50%. Means whatever the investor's objective is there, the fund manager is taking more risk than whatever investor affords, then the scheme selection may be inappropriate. It is not in the line with the investor's need or objective of the investor. So such scheme should be avoided even if it is providing you higher return, because risk is associated with it. The discipline with which the scheme sticks to the stated asset allocation, the scheme's policy of moving to cash, the extent of diversification across stocks and sectors, and the credit rating and duration of debt securities will have an impact on the return but also on the risk. So you should select such a scheme which is disciplined with the scheme stated asset allocation, scheme policy, then policy of moving to cash, then diversification across stocks, then sectors, credit rating, duration of debt securities, all which impact on the return and on the risk taking, but also on the risk. So these factors you should keep in mind while selecting the scheme. Evaluate the way the portfolio is managed to understand how the return were generated. The expenses incurred by the scheme that drains the returns to the investor will also have to be considered in the selection process. So the portfolio overall, how portfolio is managed and how returns were generated, and what are the expenses incurred which drains or which downs the return to the investor, will also have to be considered in the selection process. Now, what are the SEBI norms regarding representation of returns by mutual funds in India? SEBI is very strict and very stringent regulatory authority which do not allow the mutual funds to work against the interest of investor. So what are the SEBI's norms regarding the presentation of return by mutual funds? Uh, Mutual funds are not permitted to promise any return. Very important. Mutual funds do not assure the guarantee of return without the particular scheme, that is assured return scheme. Only in case of assured return scheme they can permitted to promise the assured return. Assured return schemes call for a guarantor who is named in the offer document. The guarantor will need to write out a check if the scheme is otherwise not able to pay the assured return. If assured return is guaranteed on the in the offer document, then the guarantor will need to write out a check, because if the scheme is not providing assured return to the investor. Advertisement code and guidelines for disclosing performance related information of mutual fund schemes are prescribed by the SEBI. So advertisement code and guidelines is also set by the SEBI. You cannot promise, or any mutual fund cannot provide the or offer the um, over over attractive returns, or cannot say in the advertisement that we will provide you such and such attractive returns. So it is prohibited by the SEBI. Now let us discuss scheme return and investors return. The investors might have a return profile that is different on account of the role of loads. In the earlier example, the CAGR was calculated with the closing net asset value of rupees 15. However, if the exit load, that is exit load means the commission of the mutual fund schemes. Load means the expenses you have to pay to the mutual fund company or asset management company for the handling your investment or to manage your portfolio. So exit suppose if an exit load of 1% was applicable, then you will receive only 99% of rupees 15 per unit. Now if we deduct the 1% amount as a exit load, then you will get 14.85 on repurchase of the units, that is units sold, units net asset value is 15 rupees. But if exit load deducted 1%, then units value is only 14.85. Thus your return as investor would be lower than the scheme return. Similarly, if the original investment had suffered an entry load, but entry load is not permitted yet in India by the SEBI. If the original investment had suffered an entry load of rupees 2%, you would have bought the unit at 102%, that is rupees 10, rupees 10.20. So this would have brought down the return. But entry load or entry commission is not permitted in India by the SEBI. So if suppose consider that the entry load of 2% is there on the investor, then you have to purchase one unit at rupees 10.20 paise instead of 10 rupees because of the entry load. So this entry load also bring down the your return than the scheme return. So investors return here will be less than the scheme return. Loads thus drag down the investor's return below the scheme return. Even taxes can pull down the investor's post-tax return. While calculating investor's return for a period, the same formula can be used with the following changes. So in case of the load is there and the taxes are there, then we have to modify the formula here in the thick lines we have written, that is instead of IV, that is initial value of net asset value, which is used for calculating scheme return, the amount actually paid by the investor. So net asset value plus entry load would need to be used. So initial value plus the entry load, that is actual amount paid by the investor. That is, suppose there is 2% of entry load, then instead of rupees 10 per unit, the investor have to pay 10.20 paise per unit. So this 20 paise we have to consider entry load, and the instead of 10 rupees, here the actual amount paid by the investor is 10.20 paise. In the formula, instead of a letter value, that is LV, which is used for calculating scheme return, the amount actually receivable by the investor. So net asset value minus exit load, if any, would need to be used. Suppose the last net asset value was per unit 15 rupees, but if 1% is 1% exit load is there, means the 1% commission of mutual fund is there, then we have to minus that 1% from the 15 rupees, and we will get the 99% of the 15 rupees, that is 14.85 rupees. So this is the modification we have to make while calculating investors return. So scheme returns is always greater than the investor's return if there is the entry load and exit load and taxes levied by the government on the investor's return. Investor returns might vary from the scheme returns also on account of choices regarding investment schedule, additional investment being made during the period of redeeming a portion of the investment. In such case, for the same period, investors' return may be different from the published return of the scheme. Suppose investors withdrawn some amount, for example, dividend withdrawn or the return withdrawn on the investment, or he or she invested more amount than which was earlier invested. So the calculation may be different. The returns published in a mutual fund advertisement would be without factoring the entry or exit load as may be applicable. So here in this scheme selection, you should consider that the returns published in the mutual fund advertisement is or would be without the entry or exit load. So you should consider entry and exit load while investing or selecting a scheme. Holding period return is calculated for a fixed period such as 1 month, 3 months, 1 year or 3 years, or since inceptions or from the starting. The return is calculated using CAGR if the holding period is over 1 year, and simple absolute return for less than 1 year. So holding period returns may not represent an accurate picture of the return from a fund if the initial value or the end value used for calculation was too high or too low. So eliminate this impact. The another type of method is used, that is rolling return are calculated. So rolling return is the average annualized return calculated for multiple consecutive holding period in an evaluation. So for example, all consecutive 1 year return in a 3-year period with a daily, weekly, monthly. So rollover is calculated and averaged. So rollover return is calculated um for the if the holding period is over 1 year, and simple absolute returns for less than 1 year. So holding period returns may not present an accurate picture of the return from a fund if the initial value or the end value used for calculation was too high or too low. So in this case, the rolling returns are calculated. So friends, I hope you understood whatever we have discussed today. Write your name and roll number in the comment box, and if you have any problem, you face any difficulty in understanding, or if you want to ask any questions, then you can ask through any mode, that is email, message or call. Thank you for listening. See you in the next lecture.